Favorite meal? Oh shit, I don't. Breakfast tacos, breakfast foods.
What kind?
What kind?
Yeah.
Bacon and egg. It's my shit.
Favorite thing about your culture and your least favorite thing about your culture? My favorite thing about my culture is how we're so people oriented. If I was to go to Mexico, to a city I knew nobody in, I would make friends easily because people are like, don't want you to be alone. Like, that's the whole point, I think, of us, is like we're a collectivist kind of culture, and that's beautiful. Like, you don't want to be alone. Like, I don't want to go to a bar and be by myself. I don't want to go to a park and be by myself. And if you just strike a conversation up, you meet like all these different people. And that's something like I think traveling to Mexico so much has taught me to do, is just like talk to people, meet people. My least favorite part about my culture, kind of like the sexism in it. Can be very sexist. I often find myself resisting the stereotypes of a woman, marriage and children, and having to pick whether I want to be only in a career or things like that. And I just wish that it would understand that it's okay to not want any of these things, and it's okay to want all of these things, and it's okay to want some of these things. It's okay to be on a spectrum with these, and instead of having like two extremes, either no or yes. And that's something I think needs to change a little bit.
How does language affect your culture? Well, growing up in America, most people assume or want everyone to speak English because, like, it's America, speak English. And I grew up in a household with my grandmother who is from Mexico, and she only really speaks Spanish. She can understand English because she's lived here so long, but we don't really expect that of her because of her age. But for me, it's always been normal just in my household to hear both English and Spanish, and so I can understand Spanish pretty well, but in terms of speaking it, I just get so nervous because my mom didn't try to teach me how to speak Spanish until I was probably 6 or 7, and every time I tried to speak Spanish, she would just laugh at me. So now I just get anxious and don't speak Spanish with other people because I'm afraid they'll do the same thing to me.
Americanized, yes or no, and how? Yes, I am pretty Americanized in the sense that I value capitalism. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, that's such a United States American thing. I like being able to go to the grocery store and picking up literally anything I want, from razors, produce, to dog food, to wines, to clothes in my grocery store. This question is actually really hard for me to answer because I don't want to admit that I'm Americanized. Like, that's such a hard thing for me to admit because I love to hold on to the fact that I'm the product of a Mexican immigrant. My dad is from Mexico, and I love to hold that. That's such a big part of my identity, and I'm not trying to exploit that. I'm trying to love that part of myself more than I'm loving a culture that's telling me that I shouldn't love that part of myself.
What was your first racialized experience? I was in elementary school, and I had to do a portrait of myself for our class. And I was like, oh, like, I'm cute, whatever. I colored it like a light peach color. And I was like, okay, this is normal. And this girl sitting next to me was like, you colored yours wrong. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you're brown. You don't look like that. And I never, like, thought about myself in that way because I was a kid. And I feel like in America, it's normalized to see, like, light-skinned Barbies and light-skinned baby dolls. And, like, that's all you see in media. So as a kid, like, I guess I didn't realize that I internalized that, and, like, in some sense, I guess I thought I was just a white girl, and I didn't know that I didn't look that way, that I looked different than other people.
What do you wish people acknowledged about you outside your culture? When I was a senior in high school, I had to make the shield for my British literature college class, by the way. And on my shield was St. Ed's and Harvard, because that's where I would potentially like to get either my master's or something from. I know, I'm gonna dream big. And there was this girl made a comment to a close friend of mine that me thinking that I would be able to get into either of these universities was kind of ridiculous. keep in mind that I actually made some test scores higher than she did that would get you into universities. But I wish that's something that people would acknowledge, that I don't understand where we got this thing where like Mexican Americans or Mexicans are not capable of attending college. I'm pretty sure Mexicans have invented a lot of things like color TV, birth control, and so I wish that we could acknowledge that Latinos and Hispanics and Mexicans and everything in between, we're smart people, we're intelligent people, we're also very dedicated people, and we take studying and removing ourselves from ignorance as a big part of who we are. So I wish people could acknowledge that.
What is a topic you're most scared to discuss with your family? I always get scared to think about a life outside of my family. So like being away from college has definitely allowed me to think of myself as an individual person because I'm very family oriented. I love my mom. She's like the only parent I have, so it's really important for me to be close to her. But going to college, I started to think like, what am I going to do for myself? Like, what do I want for myself? Not in like a selfish way, because I always want to help my family, but closer and closer to graduation, every time that I go home to visit my family, my aunt always says, so have you told your mom yet? Have you told your mom yet that I don't want to go back home after graduating college and live there? Like, that I'm gonna be an adult and like live my own life. And it's crazy to think that like I would even have to explain that to her or even have a discussion. And it's like, no, this is just a part of life. Like most people just like leave home, whether they go to college or go elsewhere, they go on their own. Usually they make their own life, and I'm just kind of scared to say like, I'm still a part of you, but on my own. So.
Little angel.
Oh my god, you've got bubbles!
Lulu. Oh my god.
My mom would be like, you curse?
If I had a talk show, this was the kind of mugs I'd have.
How does it feel to be a Latina?
It's tough. It's tough, but it's also really great.
So we're the last bands. We got another band, got London after.